What would you say if a cop looked you in the eye right now and said, "Come with us for a minute"? If you say the wrong thing, you can turn a simple stop into a full investigation in seconds. And if you stay silent the wrong way, you can still talk yourself into cuffs. Hit subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear could protect you the next time blue lights flash behind you. And tap like, so you can find this again when your brain goes blank under stress. Here's what you need to know before that moment ever happens. When an officer says, "Come with us for a minute," that line sounds casual. It sounds small. It sounds like you don't have a choice. But that one sentence is often the doorway into something much bigger. It can lead to extra questions, a pat down, a car search, a phone grab, or a long delay. While they try to build a case against you, I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the same pattern shows up again and again. The people who get in the most trouble are not always the guilty ones. They're often the people who panic, talk too much, or try to be extra helpful. Let me show you exactly what to say first, what to say second, and what never to say, and how to protect yourself without being rude, loud, or reckless. You need this because traffic stops and street stops move fast. Your heart races, your mouth gets dry. You want the whole thing over. So when an officer says, "Just come over here for a minute," most people go on autopilot. They follow, they chat, they answer every question. They think being nice will make it end faster. Sometimes it does. A lot of times it does the exact opposite. Here's the reality. The more you talk, the more material you hand over. The more you guess, the more details they compare later. The more you agree to just a quick thing, the more you give up control over what happens next. Most people have no idea that there's a clean, calm, legal way to slow the moment down and force clarity before you move 1 inch. So the first thing you say is not an excuse. It's not a story. It's not, "I didn't do anything." You look at the officer and say this: "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Word for word. Memorize that line. Say it calmly. Say it once, then stop. That question matters because it forces the officer to make the moment clear. Are you actually being held, or are they hoping you'll act like you are? Those are two very different things. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. Courts care a lot about whether a normal person in your shoes would feel free to end the encounter. Your question puts that issue front and center. If the officer says you're free to leave, then you leave quietly. No speech, no attitude, no final comment. You go. If the officer says you're being detained, now you know you're not in a casual chat anymore. Now you know this is official. That clarity protects you. Here's the reality. A lot of officers use soft words to get hard results. They don't always say, "You are detained." They say, "Come here for a sec." They say, "Hang tight." They say, "Walk with me." They say, "I just need to ask a few questions." That sounds harmless, but once you go along, you often start answering questions you never had to answer. Former police officers have confirmed this works because your first question changes the whole tone. It tells them you know the difference between a request and an order. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Sure, what's going on?" Then they get pulled into extra questions and extra delay. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to make the status clear. Watch what happens when you use it the right way. If they really had nothing, they may let you go. If they had enough reason to hold you, now they have to own that choice, and that matters later. In Florida versus Bostic, the Supreme Court focused on whether a person feels free to end the encounter. In plain English, the law cares whether this was truly voluntary or not. Your question helps draw that line. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it shows you were trying to understand your rights, not fight the officer. Without this line, you drift into their script. With this line, you stay in yours. That is a huge difference. You are not resisting. You are not being difficult. This is 100% legal. And if you only remember one sentence from this whole video, remember that one. Have you ever been hit with a "just come here for a second" line during a stop? Drop a comment below because I want to know how you handled it. Now let's go to the second line, because this is where people destroy themselves. Once you know you're being detained, or once the stop clearly shifts into questions that could hurt you, you stop trying to explain, you stop trying to talk your way out, you stop filling awkward silence. You say this: "I want to remain silent and I want a lawyer." Those exact words, short, clear, no debate. Listen closely because this is critical. A lot of people think staying silent means just sitting there and saying nothing. That sounds smart, but it can go wrong fast. Why? Because if you never clearly say you're using your right to stay silent, police may keep pressing you. Then you finally crack and start talking. Or you answer one easy question and open the door to 10 more. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when the stop starts turning serious. You want your silence to be active, not passive. You want it on the record. Miranda v. Arizona is the big case everybody knows. In plain English, it says police have to warn you about your rights before they question you while you're in custody. But here's what people miss. You still need to clearly use those rights. That's why your words matter. Berkhammer vs. McCarty also matters, because the court said normal roadside questions during a traffic stop are different from full custody. Translation: officers may ask basic stop questions before this becomes a full arrest situation. So don't wait forever hoping the law will read your mind. When the questions get risky, you make it clear. Bad way: most drivers say, "I swear I can explain everything." Then they lock themselves into a story they can't fix later. Good way: smart drivers say, "I want to remain silent and I want a lawyer." Then the questioning gets much harder to keep pushing. Let me show you exactly why this works. Police are trained to use small questions to open you up. Where are you coming from? Why are you nervous? Whose bag is that? Have you had anything to drink? Mind telling me what happened? Those questions feel friendly, they feel simple. But every answer gives them something. If your answer changes later, they call it a lie. If your timeline is fuzzy, they call it suspicious. If you sound nervous, they say your behavior looked guilty. You cannot win that game by talking more. Watch what happens when you use the right line. You give them nothing extra. No guesses, no half-truths, no nervous jokes, no volunteered details. That protects innocent people just as much as guilty people, maybe especially innocent people. Because innocent people talk the most. They think truth alone will save them. Sometimes truth told badly sounds worse than silence. And say it in a calm voice, not loud, not sarcastic, not with a speech after it. Do not say, "I know my rights." Do not say, "You can't ask me that." Do not try to act like a movie lawyer. Just say the line and stop. If they keep talking, you do not help. You do not explain. You do not fill the silence because silence feels weird. That weird silence is your shield. This is 100% legal. You are not required to build the case against yourself. And if they never arrest you, great. You lost nothing by saying less. But if they do arrest you, that clean line may become one of the smartest things you said all year. Now, the third line may be the one that saves your car, your bag, and everything inside them. If an officer asks to search, hints about searching, or starts fishing for permission, you say this: "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Memorize that line too. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. A lot of searches happen because people say yes. Without realizing, they just said yes. It's not always a direct question. Sometimes it sounds like, "You don't mind if I take a quick look, right?" Sometimes it sounds like, "If you've got nothing to hide, we can clear this up fast." Sometimes it sounds like, "Just open the bag for me." That is still a request for permission, and once you give it, you make your future defense much harder. Schneckloth va Bustamante is the Supreme Court case that made consent searches a huge deal. In plain English, if you voluntarily say yes, the search is often valid even if you did not know every legal rule. That is why your refusal has to be clear. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because there's no guessing about what you meant. Bad way. Most drivers say, I guess that's fine." Then the search happens and your later objection means almost nothing. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then you keep your rights alive if they search anyway. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. Maybe you have nothing illegal at all. You still do not consent. Why? Because officers are human. People miss things. People misunderstand things. Something in your car may look bad before it gets explained. A pill bottle, cash, another person's backpack, a tool, a smell, a message on a screen. Once the search starts, your day can go off a cliff. And if something illegal does belong to somebody else, or was forgotten in your car, your yes just helped build the bridge to your own arrest. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and consent is one of the biggest turning points. One nervous "sure" can open everything. Your trunk, your glove box, your backpack, your center console, your pockets in some situations. That is why you do not joke around here. You do not say, "Go ahead, I've got nothing." You do not say, "if you want." You say the line, calm, clear, final. And here is something important. Refusing consent does not mean the officer cannot search under any rule at all. If they claim they have another legal reason, they may still search, but your refusal still matters. It preserves the issue. It shows you did not agree. It may matter in court later, and it stops you from being the person who opened the door yourself. Most people think the goal is to talk the officer out of searching. That's not really the goal. The goal is to never help the search happen. Big difference. 90% of drivers don't know what I'm about to tell you next. If you're still here, you're already ahead of almost everybody on the road. Drop a comment saying I'm still here because this next part ties the whole thing together. Now let's talk about the moment after the officer repeats the line. They say, "Come with us for a minute." Maybe they want you by the hood. Maybe they want you near another patrol car. Maybe they want you away from your passengers. Maybe they want you to keep talking while separated. This is where you stay safe and protect your rights at the same time. You say this: I will not resist, but I do not consent to questioning or searches. Am I under arrest? That line is gold because it does two jobs at once. It shows you are not fighting physically, and it shows you are not agreeing legally. Former police officers have confirmed this works, because officers care a lot about physical control and safety. If you make it clear you will not resist, you lower the chance that your words get twisted into non-compliance. At the same time, you protect yourself from being dragged into a long roadside interview. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when the officer is trying to move you into a more controlled spot and keep you talking. Bad way.